right, we are back and we are in our second full week of these amazing opportunities to meet our speakers from FETC. We've had a chance to meet so many folks so far, and we have another one coming up right now. We have two more tomorrow and next weekend, and then before you know it, we are going to be on the floor at FETC going live. And we look forward to connecting with all of our presenters and speakers who are sharing all of their work. And what I really enjoy about FETC is the variety of educators that are coming in. And we think around future of ed tech and it's just technicians or it's just for technology. Not at all. There's so many amazing tracks. There's so many things for everyone involved in education. And our next guest is a principal. So coming on in, we have school leaders as well going there. So Mike, welcome aboard.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to FETC and jumping right in with you here.
Nice. So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about what you do in education.
Absolutely. I've been a principal in East Brunswick for 18 years. Yeah, I started when I was 9 years old, and I love it here. I love being a middle school leader. I was a middle school leader for a long time, and now I'm working at the elementary level, and I'm loving that as much. And I've written 3 books. I write about monthly for ASCD Smartbrief and Tech and Learning, and it's been a great ride because I get to talk about current topics and offer takeaways for fellow educators. So it's been a pleasure contributing.
Awesome. And you just talked about, you got an article this week for Tech and Learning, how school leaders can address the inequities in the AI digital divide. If you follow Mike, I'm going to put his Twitter X handle back up there. That's one of the top post for him. So go on and follow him and check it out. But for those who haven't seen that article yet, tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so I've been writing quite a bit about AI lately for obvious reasons. We're all trying to figure out how this will matter in education. And of course, it's going to matter in education. But also, there's I like to call it remarkably imperfect productivity, AI, because while it offers some really powerful ways to increase efficiency and effectiveness, there's also some considerable concerns. And of course, one of the ones that comes to mind right away for people is plagiarism. And I tend to talk more about the morality and that, there's always been a small percentage of kids who will plagiarize, and that we need to spend more time on teaching them why that is not a good idea and less on catching them, because even the AI detectors are questionable. But regarding AI inequities, we have to be so careful. Part of the problem with AI inequities, of course, is the very fact that the internet in and of itself, the internet ecosystem, is biased. So we have to be aware of that and then teach educators and students how to work around those biases. So I offer some refreshing ways in the article to both be aware of that and secondly, teach it. And then most importantly of all, how to work around those biases and acknowledge that they exist. They exist for disadvantaged children. They exist for disadvantaged communities, access. And I want to not just say, hey, there's a big problem here, but whenever I write an article, I also offer a solution. So there's some good nuggets in there that you can find about certainly practical ways to work around the biases.
Awesome. And you had dropped in the opening kind of talking about what you did as a principal, but you were also wrote in a couple of books that you wrote here. We have one shown here, and then we have our radical principles. So tell us a little about these books and the one that I don't have up there.
Absolutely. So MicroStrategy Magic, which was the first one you posted, I had a publisher reach out to me who saw an article I had written, ironically, about helping address parent-teacher conferences with disadvantaged children. So you can see where my focus tends to be and how to improve those and how to get more families of disadvantaged children in and how to have productive discussions. So that publisher reached out and said, hey, I like your writing style. Would you consider writing for us? And I said, sure. Of course, I had no idea how to write a book at this point. So I scrambled and started pulling all my ideas together that I had developed over nearly 20 years at that point in my career, and was able to put together a really nice package of just, takeaways, things that people can turn to page 39 and come up with a solution and then use it the next day. And that continued on with the book you didn't have up there, as you said, is called Leading Schools Through Trauma. And now that book, I put the proposal out for 6 weeks before the pandemic, not knowing that our world was going to change with a pandemic. And we already knew that kids were struggling with trauma before the pandemic. And then, of course, it became so much more relevant. And then the last book is Radical Principles, which is just a fun way to talk about working around the systemic bureaucracies. Rules need to be in place in schools, but there's also some important times where we need to work around those, especially when we're trying to bridge the gap for challenged learners and their families. So all those books are on Amazon. You can find them, and they all offer a different perspective that I think your listeners will get something out of.
Awesome. So let's change gears a little bit. We're going to talk about FETC. You're going to be rolling in on the Thursday, and you're going to have a couple sessions on Friday of the Meet the Session opportunity. So go or meet the authors. Go in, check out Mike in the books that he has, and then you have optimizing performance and wellness with tech and more. So share a little bit about what that session is going to be about.
Yeah, that's going to be packed with some ideas, like everything I try to present. You're going to walk out of there with a few ideas you never thought of that can help kids. The first one, there's basically four main subtopics. The first one is about social media and the recognition that it's creating challenges. The federal government has recognized this as a challenge and has been putting money aside. And the reality of the situation is our kids are struggling because of some of the effects of social media. And of course, there's some positives to social media, but some of the challenges of getting distracted by it, some of the toxicity, some of the disinhibition effect, which is when people are in a two-dimensional world online, they act very differently than they would in person, and
Mm-hmm.
really how to help kids feel better about themselves. So there's some very specific strategies. They're all research based. One quick example of one is that there was a study done in Australia that I'll reference that they train the kids on awareness of social media effects,
Oh,
and
wow.
what yeah, and versus a control group, and they found that there was not only a uh, profoundly positive effect with the train group, but that lasted well beyond months. So it was well worth it because it wasn't just like keeping kids safe for a couple weeks and then they go back into the same routine. They were able to show that these kids were able to respond very positively. So that's one major topic. Another one kind of breaks into two subtopics, but it's mainly using auditory stimuli. I've talked about this before in presentations if listeners have heard me, and or on podcasts and in my books. And that is that there's some very specific optic nerves that, excuse me, not optic nerves, the auditory nerves that have very significant impact from specific noises. And usually this means you're listening to a beat or something. And I'll give you a quick example. One I call coffee house sounds. If you've ever been in a Starbucks and you have those couches and it's one of those big spacious ones, and you're listening to the ambiance of the background noise, it's perfectly indistinguishable. And this is called a distracted focus because what it does is it puts your mind into what's called a theta wave state. And that's a very specific
Huh.
state that your mind can get really calm and focused in. And when that happens, we get away from all that anxiety, like I was talking about with the social media, and you're able to actually concentrate and feel very productive. And we also know from research that productivity does a tremendous job of making you feel really well about yourself. And wellness, of course, is another category altogether. So that's coffee house noises, and it really does work. I mean,
Okay.
we all sort of know this, but there's some science behind it, and I provide that and some strategies about using it in the classroom. Um, the other subcategory in that is binaural beats, and binaural beats are literally putting. Now this is different because instead of coffee house sounds where you're listening sort of in stereo, you're putting in the whole classroom. Uh, Earphones or headphones in your ears, and this is more for independent work or if you're working at home at night. And what can happen after an average of about 5 to 7 minutes for the typical listener is you can tune your brain based on what happens is there's two different sounds coming into each of your ears, and after about 5 minutes to 7 minutes, it creates a third virtual sound, and it sounds sci-fi, but it's true. And that third virtual sound that your ears pick up, your brain picks up, um, is the one that gets you into a very focused and productive state. So similar to Coffee House, just a different way to get there. And there's different states of binaural beats that you can use. So I get into some of that, and again, some of the science. And then the last one I really focus on is, of course, using AI for productivity and
Sure.
wellness. This is for both educators and students, that we do have this tool in our arsenal. And as I said before, there's some cautions to it. I just wrote an article about equity issues and how to work around those. But there's also, and again, I go back to a phrase I used earlier, remarkably imperfect productivity. We can use it to increase our efficiency and get us away from some of the more menial, lower cognitive kinds of tasks, get those done more efficiently, not exclusively by AI, because we should always be checking our work, but certainly
Sure.
taking a lot of the menial task work out of it. And I show some very specific strategies about how to do that so that we can increase our own productivity. And I mentioned productivity before as a direct connection to our wellness and also that of children. So I do dive right into the AI piece and offer some nuggets about that as well.
Awesome. So at these larger events, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of sessions, a lot of vendors. What are some things that you're looking to take away from FETC this year?
Things I'm looking to take away from it?
Yes.
Okay. So, last year when I went, and I don't know if you remember, we were in New Orleans, which is unique.
I do.
Last year. We're going back to Orlando. And I was amazed at the alerts of, hey, guess what? AI is coming. I don't know if you remember this. It seems so long ago, but a year ago, AI was on the cusp of breaking into schools, and the leaders and the vendors and everybody were talking about this with excitement. And of course, that all came to fruition: the good, the bad, and the ugly, as I said.
Right.
And I expect more of that, but in a more advanced format. That they're going to be talking now about much more intellectual kinds of AI, and some of the things that can really start to more. Now we have a much better understanding of it, and also how to work around some of the challenges. I think our vendors there will be talking about some of the ways to manage those challenges with some of their features that they'll offer, as well as some of the speakers will talk about that, as I have.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thanks for jumping on, sharing a little bit about what you do. Again, if you're heading down, make sure to meet Mike on Friday at 8:30. You can check out one of the great books that he has, and I was able to grab the third book here. We're leading school through trauma. We have that. We have our radical principle, and of course the third book, which was, I think, your first one that you wrote. And if you don't follow him, his X handle is scrolling down below. You'll have an opportunity to connect with him either in the session or on the vendor hall on Friday morning. So Mike, I want to give you a big thank you. I know we had to make a couple things happen to get you on, but I'm glad you came on, share some of your experiences, and I look forward to seeing you in Orlando.
My pleasure, and the feeling's mutual.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
You too.